Rapper Takeoff was shot and killed in downtown Houston outside of a bowling alley.
Take off. Niggas need me in the game, man. Niggas don't know what they'll do without me. They really do. Who they want? Take off. Take off. Take off. Who they want? Take off. Take off. Take off.
How does someone go from living their best life one moment to being gone the next? In the months leading up to his tragic death, Takeoff was on a new path, focused, driven, and ready to show the world what he was truly capable of. But on the night of November 1st, 2022, everything came to a sudden, heartbreaking end. A night that was supposed to be about fun, a private gathering amongst friends, turned into a fatal moment that nobody saw coming. So what really happened in those final months? What was Takeoff working on before his life was cut short? And how did one night take away not just his rising star, but the soul of the Migos? This is the story of the final months of Takeoff. Takeoff spent his final months, August to October 2022, actively engaging in music projects and public appearances before his tragic death on November 1st, 2022. He had formed a duo with his uncle Quavo as Unc and Few and was focused on dropping new music. Around mid-2022, Takeoff and Quavo began dropping music together as a duo, following rumors that the Migos had split up. In the summer, they dropped a string of collaborative singles leading up to a planned album. Notably, they dropped Hotel Lobby, which became a hit and earned a gold certification.
Let's get it. Hop off a 16 passenger. This a G5, no, this not a Challenger. Big one. I keep some members with me in the fridge. Get coat seats, they some cannibals.
They then dropped Us and Them featuring Gucci Mane and Birdman.
If it's us versus them, who you think gon' win? If it's us versus them, who you think gon' win?
The chemistry the same, the recording the same. We always normally record by ourselves because we're so crazy on just dropping new shit on each other. So when he goes off and record by himself, I can't wait till he come back and just bring some shit in. Make sure he leaves the open verse. So around September of 2022, they dropped their single Nothing Changed, the fourth single from their new project. During this time, everybody assumed that the Migos was about to break up, especially after Offset pursued a solo career and even filed a lawsuit against their label in August, though no official split was confirmed. Despite the chatter, Takeoff and Quavo pressed forward as a duo and they claimed nothing was wrong, but we'll talk about this in a minute. With us, it was really family that kept us strong. They are usually going to try and put people together, and it doesn't work like that because they don't fit. So with all this talk of being a family, where was Offset? And why were Takeoff and Quavo pushing timelines as they are a duo? I mean, they had spent years building the Migos brand, so surely operating as the Migos was beneficial to them, right? However, as time passed, the truth began to reveal itself. So it's early 2022 and something is off with the Migos. The trio that once dominated hip-hop for nearly a decade isn't moving as a unit anymore. Quavo and Takeoff are showing up to events together, working on music as a duo, while Offset is noticeably missing. At this point, the fans can feel it. Something is not right. Then the rumors began spreading. Behind the scenes and online, people are saying that Offset messed around with Saweetie, Quavo's ex, and at this point it's never confirmed, but the internet is going crazy with its theories. Every move is dissected, every lyric is analyzed, and then Quavo drops a bomb in the form of a song, Messy. But before we talk about the lyrics of the song, let's look at what Saweetie said just after she broke up with Quavo. I'm single. I've endured too much betrayal and hurt behind the scenes for a false narrative to be circulating that degrades my character. Presents don't band-aid scars, and the love isn't real when the intimacy is given to another woman. So when this tweet came out, people began speculating that Quavo cheated on Saweetie behind the scenes, and that's why she dropped this very cryptic tweet. Okay. So Saweetie appears in an episode of Carisha Please, and on the episode she's asked why her and Quavo split up. I think the past is just the past, and I've moved on since then. When she was asked if their relationship was toxic, she said, I think we had a lot of, growing pains together, while noting that they ended their relationship over differences. Okay, cool. So the episode airs, and in response, Quavo drops the song Messy, which implies that there was a lot of infidelity that took place behind the scenes. I said, Carisha, please, cause she too messy. Bitch fed my dog behind my back, but I ain't stressing.
I said, Carisha, please, cause she too messy. Please. Bitch, fuck my dog behind my back, but I ain't stressing. Not at all.
Now, at this point, the message was as clear as day. Someone was cheating behind the scenes. And just like that, the rumors began to feel more real. And at the same time, Offset was in a whole different battle, a legal one. Around August of 2022, Offset filed a lawsuit against his label, Quality Control Music. He claimed that despite negotiating a deal in January of 2021, in which he paid a substantial sum to secure rights to his solo career, QC continued to dominate his career. This dispute came to a head when QC allegedly attempted to claim the rights to Offset's solo single 54321, released in 2022.
I'm out of here, 54321. Take off, touch my brother, pull
Meanwhile, while all of this was going on, Quavo and Takeoff remained loyal to the label, standing on the other side of the battlefield. Now, the fact that one member of the Migos was suing and the other parties were standing on the other side, this was very telling. It says that the Migos were not as close as they portrayed themselves to be, because if they were, they would have stood behind Offset's back. So at this point, the Migos were not just breaking up, they were being pulled apart from different sides. Also, after all the hype and speculation, on October 7th, 2022, Takeoff and Quavo dropped their joint album called Only Built for Infinity Links. And this album comes out under Quality Control and Motown Records. The album was about 18 tracks in length and was inspired by Raekwon's classic Only Built for Cuban Links, and it symbolized the unbreakable bond between Takeoff and Quavo. Now, according to Quavo and Takeoff, they actually spoke to Raekwon before getting the name of their album. So I went up and talked to him and just let him know that we appreciate what he's done for the culture and what he did for us as a group, and that as we branch off as a duo, we're still following in his footsteps. We asked for his blessing, and he was with it, and he said he loved what we do. It's been genuine ever since. Now, initially when I heard about this album, I was like, no Offset? It just didn't feel right at first, right? So hearing that Quavo and Takeoff were just dropping an album without Offset, it felt like something was missing. But then hotel lobbies started popping up everywhere, Instagram Reels, TikToks, and even random YouTube shorts, and I realized this beat was nasty, and Takeoff was floating on that beat. So I gave the album a shot, and I didn't expect it to be this good, I won't lie. The album was very focused. Almost every song on the album had energy. The chemistry between Quavo and Takeoff was undeniable. And even though Quavo was on this album and he did his thing, Takeoff was in his bag. And he was easily the highlight of this album. And then before we could fully appreciate the album, Takeoff was gone. And now the album is really hard to listen to. Like, I remember hearing Nothing Changed after he passed, and the lyrics just hit differently now. Like, wow, this was his last real body of work, and we didn't even know it at the time. Looking back on it, this might be the best post-cultural project any of them put out. It had the bangers, the chemistry, and had a high potential to be a classic. Now, in the weeks leading up to his death, Takeoff was out promoting his album and connecting with the fans. He typically had a reserved personality, but because he was in a duo with Quavo, he began putting himself out there more and showcasing his personality. Like on September 2022, Quavo and Takeoff were in interviews, promoting their album, and they even addressed topics like why Takeoff was not on Bad and Bougie. Now, according to the duo, Takeoff's absence from Bad and Bougie was not intentional. It was simply a matter of timing. According to Quavo, the Migos were in a very bad space because they felt the pressure to drop something new and fresh, and they were not coming up with anything. At the time, they were also dealing with label issues with their former label 300 Entertainment, which slowed down things even more. So instead of waiting around, the group took matters into their own hands and decided to leak Bad and Bougie on SoundCloud, just to put something out there for the fans. Now, the song was originally supposed to feature just Offset and Lil Uzi, with Quavo jumping in at the last minute. It was a very rushed process, and in all the chaos of getting it done, Takeoff was simply left off the track. Of course, nobody could have predicted what was going to happen next. The song blew up, skyrocketing to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and becoming one of the biggest anthems of the year.
My bitch is bad and bullshit, bad. Cooking up dope with a Uzi. My niggas are savage, ruthless.
So around October of 2022, around the album's release, Takeoff made several high-profile appearances. He and Quavo hosted a massive listening party in Atlanta in the first week of October. And on October 6, 2022, the duo performed their song Nothing Changed on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And on October 29, 2022, Takeoff had his final performance, just 3 days before his passing. He and Quavo took the stage at Lil Wayne's Louisiana Fest in New Orleans on October 29, 2022. They performed tracks from Only Built for Infinity Links and were showcased alongside acts like Cameron, Rick Ross, and even had a surprise guest performance by Drake. This marked the last time that Takeoff performed in public. By all accounts, he was doing exactly what he loved, rocking the stage with his family and enjoying success right until the very end. So, on November 1st, 2022, things were about to change. So it's the early hours of November 1st, 2022, just past 2:30 a.m. in Houston, Texas. The air outside 810 Billiards and Bowling, a downtown bowling alley, is thick with the energy of an after-hours gathering. Inside, Takeoff and Quavo, 2/3 of the Migos are wrapping up their night. The party spills outside, and then conversations turn into heated exchanges. The crowd is about 40 deep, voices are rising, and tension is brewing. And then, chaos. Gunshots crack through the night, not just one, but multiple. The noise ricochets off the buildings, people ducking, running, shouting, and in the middle of it all, Takeoff is hit. Now Takeoff was not even part of the argument. He was just simply standing there and was simply an innocent bystander. But fate is cruel. He takes multiple bullets, one to the head, another to his torso, and collapses to the ground. Someone screams. Quavo rushes over, panic in his voice, desperate for help. And then a nurse living nearby runs to his side, tries doing CPR, but at this point it's too late. Takeoff is gone. And just like that, 28 years old, a life full of music, rhythm, and untapped moments cut short in an instant.
Before we go to break, I just want to say, and take this moment to say how utterly devastated we were to wake up to the news that at the age of 28, Takeoff has tragically died. It's heartbreaking.
Now, 2 other people were hit in the crossfire. Joshua Washington, also known as Wash, a business associate of Quavo, and the other person that was hit was a young woman. Both survived, but with the weight of what just happened, of who they just lost, settles heavy over the scene. Police arrive swiftly. You can hear the sirens in the background, and the investigation begins. And it doesn't take long to confirm the worst. Takeoff was not the intended target. It was just another case of senseless violence, of bullets finding the wrong person, of a moment that should have never happened. Now, earlier that night, Quavo had been cruising around in Houston with Jazz Prince Jr., who was celebrating his father's birthday, Jay Prince. When the fight broke out near the bowling alley, many of the people there were from the party. Now, police believe the shooters were guests at the event and not outsiders. And in the chaos right after, most of the people that were there ran away before the police could get statements, so no immediate suspects were identified. And to top it off, there was no sign that Takeoff knew the shooter or had any conflict with anyone. So, after a month of collecting evidence and reviewing the video footage, the police made an arrest. On December 1st, 2022, Houston detained Patrick Xavier Clark, a 33-year-old local man, charging him with Takeoff's murder. And according to the police, Forensic evidence shows that one of his bullets hit Takeoff.
Sophia, according to the warrant, Takeoff and Quavo, members of the group Migos, were in town to visit a music producer named Jay Prince. They played basketball at a local gym and then had a private party at the bowling alley on October 31st. According to the warrant, they played a dice game and someone lost a large sum of money. We're going to take you back to the scene on what happened early that morning. It was about 2 o'clock on November 1st. 34 people were gathered outside the bowling alley. This, of course, was after closing time. Quavo argued with several men about the dice game. This is according to police. The fight got physical, and police say video shows 2 people firing shots. One of them, a man by the name of Willie Bland. This is the first time we're hearing his name. According to the warrant, Bland travels with Takeoff and Quavo. Police say Bland's shots were not fired in the direction of Takeoff. They say those bullets that struck Takeoff came from a gun held by Patrick Clark. This is Clark in court earlier this week. Police say Clark was also holding a wine bottle at the time, which he left at the scene with his fingerprints. Takeoff was hit twice with bullets from the same gun. When police arrested Clark, they say he did have a gun on him at the time of the arrest, that of a similar caliber. Detectives say they used multiple videos and phone data to tie Clark to the location of the shooting. He's being held on a $2 million bond. Be sure to stick with KPRC2 for the latest. Sophia?
All right, Zach, thank you for that update. Happening today.
Another man, 22-year-old Cameron Joshua, was arrested later in November on weapons charges related to the event. And as mentioned earlier, authorities concluded that Takeoff's murder was just an accident. "I miss him a lot and I love him," Quavo said. "He know I love him. That's what we always know. So when you see me and you see me smiling or something like that, you don't gotta never think I forgot about him or I'll forget about him. I think about him all the time. Sometimes I cry myself to sleep. And that's it. I just know he's here. If I can't feel him, I just know he's around." Now, according to Cardi B, her and Offset were taken back by the news as well. "We just fell asleep, and out of nowhere, Offset's phone kept ringing. My phone kept ringing. Offset picked up the phone and he was just like, 'No!' And he was screaming and screaming. I'm like, 'What's going on?' And he's like, 'Takeoff is dead.' I smacked him and I said, 'Don't say that. Like, don't say that.' And then he was just screaming and throwing things. Throwing up, running all over, and I was so scared. I was just crying so much. It was terrible." So in essence, Takeoff's death took everybody by surprise because it was completely unprovoked. He was not involved in an argument. He wasn't the one causing trouble. He was just there, an innocent bystander, caught in the crossfire of someone else's recklessness. And that's the part that makes it so hard to accept. One moment he was just enjoying his night, surrounded by people he thought were just having fun. And the next moment he's gone. It's crazy how things can escalate. How one split second, one wrong move can change everything forever. It's just a reminder that when you're out, it's not just about where you go. It's about who you're around. Now, what makes this loss even more painful is that Takeoff was finally stepping into his own outside of the Migos. For years, people saw him as the quiet one, but real fans knew he was the most lyrical, the heart of the group, and could not be duplicated. His flow was effortless, his delivery was smooth, and his presence brought a certain balance to the Migos. Without him, it's not just missing a piece, it feels like the soul of the group is no more. At only 28 years old, Takeoff was just getting started. He was just beginning to show the world what he was truly capable of. And now, we will never get to see that potential. R.I.P. to Takeoff. He was my favorite member of the Migos, and his death was just a case of being at the wrong place, at the wrong time, surrounded by the wrong people.
Today marks 1 year since Migos rapper Takeoff was shot and killed outside of a Houston bowling alley.
The man accused of murdering Takeoff, Patrick Xavier Clark, who's been free on bond, has been taken off house arrest. He's been ordered to surrender his passport. He can't travel outside of Harris County and has to wear a GPS monitor. He has a curfew from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. For more on Clark's bond condition and a look back at each detail of this case, go to fox26houston.com.
That's it for me. It's your boy Ali. What happened to Takeoff in your opinion? Let me know down below. Also add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music. Till next time, peace.